everybody. Today on Miss Art and Friends, we have a guest. Her name is Gail LeVay, and she's going to talk to us about art and her life as an artist. I've known Gail for quite a while. As a matter of fact, my husband interrupted her class at Plaza many years ago and said, teach her to paint. So I've enjoyed the company of Gail for many years, and I've also enjoyed painting. And we all know Gail, one of Gail's famous quotes is, there's only two kinds of clothes.
Yeah, two kinds of clothes. There's the kind that becomes good paint rags and the kind that doesn't. Whenever I buy something, an article of clothing, I want to try to see, will it eventually be a good paint rag? If it's cotton, the answer is yes. If it's not, the answer is no. It'll go from an article of clothing that I wear normally to something that I wear for painting to something that I cut up and use as a rag.
That is so cool. I know one time you told me I was so disturbed about something I had on, and you said, Tanya, there's only ones you got and ones you're going to use as a rag. I love that. And I know one time the thing that you enjoyed the most that I made for you that you were so excited is I cut up a lot of old T-shirts to make paint rags out of.
Yeah, you gave me a whole bag of them, and I used them for a long time.
And
every
we've
time
had a great time.
Yeah, every time my husband, gets tired of a shirt, he gives it to me, I cut it up. People ask, why not use paper towels? And my reply, because I'm an oil painter and I do paintings that last for a while, paper doesn't really last. And if you use paper towels on your paintings or on your brushes, a little bit of paper gets on there and it turns acidify and changes color. But if you use cloth, that doesn't happen. And I like to use a rag a lot of the time. Instead of using a brush, I like to just dab at my paintings or wipe at them and just have fun with it. And a rag really works for that. Paper towel, not so much.
That's so wonderful. Now, you're teaching classes. Can you tell me about the classes that you teach now?
Yeah, I teach in Nashville and in Franklin. In Nashville, actually all the classes this summer are about flowers. In Nashville, we're learning how to paint roses. And in Franklin, we're learning different things about different colors of flowers. So last week we did yellow, and this week we're going to do red.
So where are those classes?
Those are at On Track Studios in Franklin, 1978 Wilson Pike.
Oh, and so I know that you've been teaching art for a long time, and there's been a lot of students who've come through your class.
Yeah.
And how many students do you think you have?
Well, right now, the classes have about 15 people in it per class, and that's 4 classes. But over the years, I think I've taught 700 people.
700?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. That's really a lot. So now I know that you don't even have to actually be in Nashville to learn to paint. You have made a DVD series?
Yeah. It's a set. Oh gosh, I think it's about 20 DVDs. It's about 30 hours of instruction on these DVDs and a full color book so that people all over the world can order these online.
All over the world?
All over the world. I have people from all over the world who write to me, send me emails or, on Facebook, send me pictures of what they're doing and how they've been learning from this course. It's all the same things that I teach in my classes. And what I teach in my classes are the foundational sorts of things that you need to know in order to be able to draw and paint. I don't just give people a place to paint and just say, you just go ahead and be creative. Because people are creative. Everybody is creative in their nature. And they all want to learn how to be more creative and how to bring more of that out of their soul. But it can take some tools, like maybe what you want to do is plant a garden, but in order to do that, you need some soil and some water, and maybe what you want to do is be a ball player, but in order to do that, you need a ball and a team.
So there is a process.
There's a process, yeah.
There's a process that people start. But if I was old when I started painting, and I was very intimidated about trying to start with people who already knew how to do art, how does a person get over that nervousness, that fear of failure?
I think that fear of failure is something that happens to adults more than it does to younger people. I think that the development of artistic creativity in younger people, and I'm saying people maybe up till about age 10, That just happens naturally. And then at about age 10, they start to get some ideas that they're not able to create. They need a little bit more knowledge than they have in order to create that. That critical point is when a teacher needs to step in and say, okay, here's how you get this next thing going. Now what happens to an adult, if they didn't have good instruction at age 10, and they go through the rest, the next 20 years or however long before they come back to instruction, at that point when they come into the art class, they're kind of like that little 10-year-old again. And the art teacher needs to be sensitive to that fact, that that's the way that person feels. But it's still the same knowledge that everybody needs at that point, whenever they come back to art classes. And I've had a lot of people in my classes that went to college and art school and still didn't learn these things because it hasn't been taught in schools for a long time. I'm part of a movement of artists who are trying to get this information back out again into the classroom, into the colleges, into people's hands so that they can learn these things.
Gail, you said that you're working with the state of Tennessee to try to get more art in the schools. How is that working? Who do you talk to? What do they do? What's the process? Are you meeting any resistance?
Well, so far, what I have done with the state of Tennessee, well, actually with Nashville, has been, it was a degree, it was a grant program where we worked with some of the children in the middle schools, an after-school program. And we had different people teaching them different things, but I was asked to teach how to draw. And it was interesting because I taught the children how to draw buildings and how to also draw people. And they were able then to draw pictures of what interested them, maybe what they wanted or maybe what they feared. That kind of information, it was like another language that they could use. It was a language that crossed cultures. We've got a lot of different cultures in this city, and we need something like that that can make sense to everybody. Another thing that's going on right now is called the Da Vinci Initiative, and that's through the Art Renewal Center. It's something that's happening all over the world. Again, artists like myself who are trying to get more of the traditional art understanding back into the hands of students so they can communicate the way they want to. The Da Vinci Initiative is an ongoing project where we will meet with the school boards and work together with them on getting this going.
So are you working with Metro or with the state of Tennessee?
Metro.
Only Metro?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that is called the Da Vinci?
The Da Vinci Initiative.
Da Vinci Initiative.
And that is something that's just, it's been going on in other states for a couple of years. Some colleagues and I are introducing it to Nashville.
Oh, that's nice. Because I know that when I paint, basically when I look back at the paintings that I have painted, I can call it that it is my art biography.
Yeah.
Because I can see my life
Yeah.
that I have painted. So some people would keep a diary with something they would do. Some people may, blog or something. But I just note that my art has been an autobiography of where I was, what I was doing. Sometimes it helped me a lot through a lot of trauma in my life.
Exactly, yeah. One thing that I've done is I've worked with homeless people through the greenhouse ministries, teaching them how to draw, because being able to draw, or really any kind of art, but drawing is it's the cheapest because all you need is a pencil and a piece of paper. Being able to do that gets you through a lot of different kinds of traumas. Some of the people are trying to deal with drug addiction, some people are trying to deal with homelessness, and to be able to either draw about their experience or draw about the way they wish their life was, or just lose themselves in drawing, is just a wonderful thing to be able to get through that sort of thing.
So the part of art that we use is as I say, the right brain?
There are some theories about that, but it hasn't been entirely proven. A few years ago, the book came out, Drawing with the Right Side of the Brain, and that was about trying to get people past their blocks for drawing. One of the things that really worked with that is there was a picture in the book you were supposed to copy, and if you copied it right side up, you couldn't do it. But if you copied it upside down, you could. And a lot of the time I tell people, turn your picture upside down, it'll go better.
Yeah, because we always think that what I saw was like abstract. Well, to me, the definition of abstract was you don't have the top and the bottom part of the painting, so we couldn't put a name on it. However, if I was to look under a microscope, it would be an abstract painting. If I looked at the sky, it would be an abstract painting.
That's true, yeah. If you can get past naming things, if you can get past trying to say, well, that is an apple, it's supposed to look the way I think an apple is supposed to look, or even the way they've showed apples to me in other kinds of drawings or cartoons, because you're naming it an apple, you've skipped your eyes. Your eyes are giving you information that's completely separate from names. And I think when you talk about what part of the brain you're using, it probably has to do with that. If you can think of it in a different way, instead of thinking of it as what you named an apple, if you can think of it just as what it looks like, you might be surprised.
People are always worried about the right answers, the correct answers, but I found even when I was painting that if I asked the right question, even in my life that I learned through art, that I would get the right answer. Like, is the line straight? Is it dark? Is it curved? Is it close to me? Is it far away? Is it little? Is it big? And basically, that's how I learned to draw, is just by asking myself very small little questions.
Those are the best things to do. That's the way to do it. Is this area darker than that, or is it lighter? You know, is this area smaller or is it bigger? Is this area really defined or is it kind of blurry looking? Those are the kind of questions every artist asks all the time. And even when you're doing abstract art on your painting, what you want to say is, well, do I like a bright color there, or do I want a more subtle color? Would I like to have some lines, or would I like to have a shape? And that's still the same kind of questions that you ask yourself, whether you're doing abstract or not.
Well, I think it's funny too, is people ask, somebody say, what is your medium? And they're not talking about your psychic abilities, you know, like, and that is that I don't think people have to stay in one medium. You can
No.
go from oil, water,
Yeah.
acrylic.
I went through a phase that what I did was pieces of wood and paper glued onto doors. And those are what I did, yeah. So if all you had ever seen were those, you'd think that's what I did. I went through a phase where what I did was I painted big, thick masses of paint with leaves and twigs stuck into them. And part of it was something that looked like a landscape, and part of it was just the leaves and twigs. And all kinds of fun things like that. You can do amazing things and communicate what you want to communicate with something that you can make with your hands.
I know that by learning art, I learned a lot about life, because I knew that I was seeing things that I had not noticed before. Like, I never noticed that a thistle, that the flower, I couldn't make that color of the thistle. And a crepe myrtle, the bloom grows on the end of the branch.
Yeah.
So it caused me to look at things that I see, everyday objects every day, and look at them and find out a connection.
Yeah. Sometimes when a student will come back to me and say, where have I been all my life? I'm seeing things I never saw before. That actually warms my heart, because that's my goal, is to help people see more, see better, experience more.
So we know that you've had 700 plus students, and we know that you have a DVD series that people are learning from you all over the world, and you're teaching class. And what is it? You have your work in some galleries?
I have it in Nashville at Richland Fine Art, and in the East in Boston, and in Maine, and in New York. I've had my work in New Mexico, and of course people own it all over the country. So it's been, it's been a busy time. It still is.
So those paintings that you have, when you look back over the years and you see paintings and you know that those paintings have lived in someone's home for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. That's another way I think that I can reach people. My paintings can minister to people in their own homes. And a lot of times people will come back to me and say, when I look at your painting, it just gives me a sense of hope, or it gives me a sense of peace. And that way, whatever's going on in their life, they can come back and look at that, and just, it opens up their heart. That's
Yes.
what I hope.
That's very true, because what I found myself for sure when I'm painting is the one thing is that people have to learn to accept who you are and know that no matter what kind of lesson you have or what colors you have, you're always going to paint like you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the good thing. And
Mm-hmm.
that when you can accept that this is my skill, this is the best that I can do, this is what I'm doing, then we all have what they say, we find our own voice, we find our
Mm-hmm.
own impression of the world. And
Yeah.
people can identify what we paint just by looking. That's
Yeah, it's like your signature. Your art is like your signature. And rather than think, well, I wish I could paint like so-and-so, you paint like you. Each artist does have their own signature and their own voice. As they develop the knowledge of using the mediums and the materials in a way that brings out into the world what's in their heart, their work may change. It will change, and it may be closer to what the artist had in mind when they wanted to do this. But it still is the work of that particular artist, and it's always recognizable as such.
Yeah, I know that I took an abstract class and I painted for 6 weeks on different canvases.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the 6 weeks, we ripped the canvases up and we glued them all onto one board.
Wow.
And I couldn't tell the difference from what I painted on day 1 or when I painted on day 6. They were all the same. So basically, I figure that we each have an inner palette,
Mm.
and we paint that palette for the rest of our life. We all get the same tubes when we go to the art store, but then somehow our eyes, our life make us paint who we are.
I think we always do paint who we are, but I don't think that our art doesn't develop and change over our
Oh,
lives. I
absolutely.
think it does.
Yes.
And after that abstract experience, I bet when you painted something else, you took some of that experience with you.
Oh,
You know?
absolutely, absolutely. It was a very learning experience. Now, we have a couple paintings that you painted here. One of them was in Nashville, and the other
Mm-hmm.
one, you might tell us where that one was.
Well, I have a funny story about that.
Okay, we'd like to hear that story.
I went out to the Natchez Trace Parkway to do some sketching, and I pulled over in one of their little pullovers, and I sat there with my sketchbook and my oils, a little pad of oils, and did some sketching. And what's going on there is it's springtime, and I think there's more color in Tennessee in the springtime than there is in the fall. And it looks like it's on the water. It looks like there's water there. But that's what's really there is the Natchez Trace Parkway, and I just made it look like water.
Oh, okay.
So while I was there doing that sketch, I looked in my side mirrors. I realized that there were two policemen sneaking up on me with their guns drawn.
Guns?
Yes, on each side they were sneaking up below the level of the car. And I said, oh, what now? And they popped up beside me and they saw what I was doing and they apologized. And I don't know what they thought they were looking for. But you know, I get a lot of attention from the police.
Oh,
I
yeah.
pull over and sketch a lot of the time and they think that there's something wrong or whatever. But, you know, this is the thing about being an artist. We're a little different.
Well, I know that I went back to my hometown and I was in a field doing plein air painting, and people would stop and say, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Washing a car." I mean, I'm painting. I mean, don't you
Yeah,
see?
yeah,
But it just causes everyone to look at the environment that they live in.
yeah.
So artists breathe life.
Yeah, we do. And I just think it's important that actually a thing that's been happening recently that I really appreciate is what's happening in the gaming industry and in movies, where a lot more visual artists have been being used in the last 15 years than ever before. A lot of things are done through art rather than any other way.
Right.
And it's just exciting to me.
It's really great. I just now I know that people pick up messages when they're very young. Like my husband was a vascular surgeon, so he could do very well with tiny little things. But his mother, when he was very young, said to him, "Everything you touch, you destroy."
Oh,
So even when he was an adult, when he would be painting or doing any kind of work, he would kind of need encouragement
Mm-hmm.
because the voices and people that I've painted with in classes talk about the voices
Mm-hmm.
that tell them they're not good enough and your work is no good and why should you do that? And sometimes people say, well, I'm not going to be a Van Gogh or a Monet. Why should I paint?
Yeah, those voices I think are absolutely universal. I have them all the time. And as a matter of fact, what I do in the morning before I go into my studio is I pray God to help me resist them. Because that is something that I think anybody who's not doing a really basic thing, if you're doing a basic thing that has to do with survival, like building a house or serving a meal, um, we know that everybody needs a place to live and everybody needs a meal. But in our culture, it's not all that clear that everybody needs art in their life and that everybody can create art. That's just not something that's in our culture. We have this competitive culture. What's the point of being a ball player if you can't be the best ball player?
Well, I know that, when people go to school and they go to college and they say, well, I don't know why you're going to major in art because you can't make a living at art. And then they punish children who are drawing or whatever, and they say, well, you need to go learn to do science or, math. But now, I mean, you have to have illustrators and everything.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I tell people about that, and one of the things that is happening with the Art Renewal Center, is that people are becoming more aware of the fact that art is needed and that you can make a living as an artist. It's one of the things that shouldn't be told to people. I think if somebody was born to be an artist and then discouraged from that, it can do a tremendous amount of damage. Take a look at Hitler.
Yeah, Hitler was an artist. People, have you ever seen Hitler's
Hitler was an
drawings?
artist who got discouraged and turned away. My dad was an artist, and he was told that he needed to be an engineer instead. So he went into petroleum engineering, and he never was the same. He wasn't a happy man. I think that when somebody is born an artist, they need to just do that, and there are all kinds of ways that an artistic person can make a living. It's not just painting. Art is not just about painting. There are all kinds of things you can do with artistic knowledge, from fashion design to interior design to landscape design to, like I say, the art that's done in the entertainment industry. And there's always teaching. You can always share this knowledge with other people. Not to mention doing paintings and art for your own friends and relatives and for your own joy.
Yeah, I think it's really special. We sort of reward children. They come home and we put tape their paintings on our refrigerator, and we love them and we like them. And then sometime we start trying to say that terrible, awful word, good. And then we start judging. Gail, now you're going to be here in our area, and I hope that you'll come back to Miss Art and Friends.
I would look
And
forward
I
to
hope
it.
that you'll bring some artists that you are in your class, because we always like to have new people that'll come on the class, and we're looking forward to more of your artwork. I know that I enjoy your artwork.
Thank you.
I know that a lot of people enjoy your classes. What would you like to say to people, the struggling person out there, that they would like to know, that you would just give just a few words of wisdom to them?
Don't give up. Don't listen to those voices. If you have it in your heart to be an artist, it's just like a little acorn has it in its heart to be an oak tree. And the only thing that's going to keep that little acorn from growing into an oak tree is if somebody stomps on it. And it would be sad if that somebody was you. Don't let it happen.
Yeah, that's great. I hope that you'll be coming down to our show, and I want to come. I know that I have a huge work of art that Gail had, and we had a big celebration at our home with Gail. There will be times when people will give up, and I think you've given them a great words of encouragement to say,
I
don't
hope
give
so.
up.
Yeah, I hope
I
so.
always think that the masterpiece is on this end of the brush anyway,
Yeah, yeah. I agree.
And you can go to your website. What is that?
It's gaillevay.com. You'll see my artwork there. The painting I did for you is on that, and you'll see a list of my classes.
Right. And if they want to send for you know, hide in their room and learn to paint, what would we need? We would need a pencil. Just the
Well, if you're going to
simplest
be
of
all by
simple.
yourself, just a pencil and a piece of paper.
Pencil.
And just start drawing whatever is around you. Don't copy photographs. That's a big mistake, copying photographs even from the computer when you're trying to learn. That's a
Paint
mistake.
from life.
Draw, if you just have a pencil and a piece of paper, draw a picture of whatever is in front of you. It can be your coffee cup, and it's just fine.
Oh, that would be interesting to just draw a coffee cup.
Yep.
Well, Gail, we're so glad that you came, and I just want to thank you very much for being my friend.
Thank
And
you,
it's
Tanya.
been very special all through the years.
Yep.
I tell people that I graduated from Gale University, but then I couldn't say Gale University, but I did learn a lot from Gale, and I thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for being my friend.
Thank
Thank you
you
for inviting me.
Thank you.